Continued debate on the amendment with respect to Bill 5. We will hear now from Kelowna Centre.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I rise today in this chamber to support this wonderful amendment that was brought forward by the member of Natako Lakes. This is an amendment that speaks to the heart of what matters most right now to British Columbians: affordability, fairness, and responsibility. That is why I'm standing here today speaking to this amendment. This is an amendment that is grounded in fairness, responsibility, and most importantly, relief. Meaningful relief for British Columbians who are being crushed by the rising cost of living. Right now, families across this province are struggling under the weight of rising prices. Rent is up, interest rates are up, groceries, they are sky high. The member previous mentioned some things are coming down, but that's after they skyrocketed during the pandemic, and that was an insane time. And I think, just for the record, when we compare where we're at now to where we were 2 years ago, we're not comparing apples to apples. We need to be comparing, or this government needs to be comparing where things are now to where things were when they took over the government. It doesn't matter whether you live in Prince George, Campbell River, or Kelowna, the cost of living is pushing people to the brink. Everywhere I go in my constituency, whether it's the grocery store, the gas station, or the community centre, I hear the same thing. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Families are watching their paychecks disappear before the month is over. Seniors are making impossible choices between prescriptions and groceries. Young people are wondering if they'll ever be able to get ahead. It breaks my heart listening to the stories of the people of Kelowna that are really struggling, and they aren't getting ahead. They are the reason that I am an MLA. They are the reason that I decided to put my name forward and run. British Columbians are resilient, Honourable Speaker. They work hard, they pay their taxes, they play by the rules. But they are tired. Tired of promises made and promises broken. They are tired of being taxed to death. Taxed on their income, taxed on their property, taxed on their purchases, and taxed on their taxes. This bill begins to change that. The Income Tax or Grocery Rebate Guarantee Amendment Act proposes to save each British Columbian $500 a year. That's $1,000 to every 2-income household. That's families, Honourable Speaker. That's who we're talking about. This means that every family would save $1,000 each and every year. This means more money in families' pockets, and not another broken promise from this NDP government. The NDP promised voters a $1,000 grocery rebate in the 2024 election. After the votes were counted and they regained the power that they feared losing, they walked away on this campaign promise. That promise, Honourable Speaker, was a whisper of hope, a glimpse of relief, and a chance for just a sliver of peace and optimism for families that are living paycheck to paycheck. Just $200 away from trouble, loss, hardship every 2 weeks. This promise was one that I would have latched onto in their shoes. When my husband and I had our 4 children as young parents in our early 20s and early 30s, we struggled. Life's plans changed, and finances weren't always easy. We lived paycheck to paycheck, and yes, $200, heck, even $100, whether it was short or extra, made a huge difference in our monthly bills. This was a time when we, like so many families today, could not afford for one thing to go wrong. We just got by. We didn't go on trips. We didn't go to movies. We didn't go to the mall because we couldn't buy anything. For us, we worked hard. We loved our kids well, and we pinched and saved and budgeted, and we just hoped for calm waters. We hoped the van wouldn't break down, and it was a real threat. Because I was running a daycare at the time, and I needed the van to drive the kids to and from school. A costly repair could impede my ability to work. We just hoped no one would get sick. When my oldest child was 4, she needed emergency surgery, and it turned into a lengthy hospital stay, and our family was in trouble. If I wasn't there to run the daycare, the loss of income would set us back significantly. Many times, I pushed through work while not feeling well because there was no other option for an entrepreneur living paycheck to paycheck. It was promises like this, temporary and immediate relief, that tugged on our hearts and minds, and yes, tempted us for our vote in the past. This is a cheap way to grab votes. I get it, it works. Desperate people will cling to hope. They will grab the closest thing to their grasp, which will keep them from drowning. It's a survival instinct. It's a good thing. It's smart. It's necessary. I have been there and I get it. But it's especially cheap now that it's been used as a bait and switch. Well, this new motion could rectify that. It would give families the relief that they need now. It would also give this government the opportunity to make good, to provide the much needed and much promised relief. It's a start. This new amendment would reduce income tax, and it would be permanent, not just 3 years. One of the biggest reasons I got involved in BC politics, the biggest reason actually, was affordability. I have 4 kids, as I mentioned before. They're all young adults, or almost young adults now. And I'm really proud of them, by the way. They don't have the same optimism that I had at their age. I was told, your whole life is ahead of you. What will you do? Where will you travel? What do you want to be? Where will you live? I dreamed of travel, family, home ownership with a beautiful yard and pets. Kids and young adults now seem to feel, or maybe they know, that they will never own a home. They don't have the same license to dream that I had, not that many years ago. My own kids have mentioned Alberta or further away for affordability reasons. Others have left not only the province, but the country. People are seeing their futures erode in BC. We are being taxed to the eyeballs. Prior to being elected, I worked in real estate, and I saw firsthand how expensive people find British Columbia. From the property transfer tax that we sometimes call a deal killer here in BC with those from out of province, to the sheer number of buyers that just gave up here on our markets, or to the sellers that left for more affordable ground, we saw it firsthand as realtors everywhere. If we could reduce taxes for families, Honourable Speaker, we might keep some families here in BC. If we could reduce taxes for people, we might keep our adult children here in BC. In October of 2024, the Premier said, under our plan, families will get more support and you'll get it right away. The leader of the official opposition would hand tax breaks to billionaires and speculators while leaving you and waiting for the help you need now, end quote. Well, actions speak louder than words, and it turns out that it was the Premier that left you waiting for the help you need now. The Premier was all tax, Freudian, I mean all talk and no action. That is like seeing someone drowning and saying, nah, I'm not gonna throw you this rope and flotation device now because I can't afford it, but I know you'll be fine, and thanks for voting for me. The leader of the official opposition knows that people are drowning financially and that they need this help now. That is why I can support this amendment, and I hope that you will too. Families are hurting. 307 new clients registered for food bank support in the Central Okanagan, and that was just this March. These are new clients to the food bank, people who never needed a food bank before. These are families. In fact, the fastest growing clientele at the Central Okanagan Food Bank is middle-income families. Families with 2 income earners, 2 working adults in 1 home. Many have good jobs, many have university degrees. This is unacceptable in Canada. This is unacceptable in British Columbia and in Kelowna. This amendment could be a first step in instant relief for families. I read all of the ministry mandate letters, and they all start with the same points: grow the economy. But, Honourable Speaker, I do not see that happening, unless you consider government jobs and bureaucracy economic growth. This amendment would put more money in the pockets of British Columbians. For some, it will be the difference between seeking help from a food bank for the first time or going to the grocery store like they live in the first world country that they actually live in. For others, like the entrepreneur I was, it could mean being able to spend time in the hospital with a loved one without going into debt. Maybe it will be a payment on a student loan or an investment in a product for the start of a small online business. Or, since cats are a theme today, Honourable Speaker, maybe you can afford to buy your cat some pet food or some fresh litter. Honourable Speaker, through you, I hope to make the point and emphasize how much people are struggling in the real world, outside of the walls of this chamber. Seniors are struggling. A couple of weeks ago in Kelowna, and I know I've said this before, 3 different senior men sought shelter in one day at one particular location. That was one day in Kelowna. It's worth noting that not one of these men, not even a single one, had a drug use issue, and not one of these men had previously sought shelter. I'm sure that for them, after working productively their whole lives, this would have been a blow to their pride. And I can't imagine, I feel so bad for them. I can't imagine how they must be feeling and what they're facing. This is how bad it is and how badly British Columbians need this relief that this bill could offer. In October of 2024, the Premier said, "I'm on the side of everyday people and families who just want to end the day a little further ahead than when they started it." The Premier sounded so kind, and maybe I believe him a little bit because, well, he does yoga like me, and yogis are nice people usually, and because I like to believe the best about people, and because I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I want to believe him because most people want good things for themselves and for others. We don't like to see others suffering. But I do think there's a disconnect from that side of the room, Honourable Speaker, because life is harder. Everything seems less affordable. How can he be on the side of everyday people when he cancels relief and life just continues to be harder and harder for the shrinking middle class? Honourable Speaker, I have a hard time with the Premier's statement because after 8 years of NDP government, there is nowhere that you can look in any sector where life is better unless it's an executive position in a government-funded job. And yet I hear all of these nice things coming from the other side of the room. Things like, we're investing in this, we're increasing funding in that, continuing to support this, we'll begin to support that. We will do, we have done, we will, we've reduced poverty, we've expanded programs. But then tell me why. Why does life seem worse, harder? Why is everything less affordable? Why are there more mental health struggles than ever before and more crime? There seems to be a disconnect here. A difference between some really pretty dressed up word salads and reality. Honourable Speaker, I like to deal with the root of the problem. This amendment speaks to the root of the problem. There's not enough money in British Columbians' pockets. Rather, this government seeks to tax British Columbians and then give a little bit back here and there. This is the kind of system that promotes reliance on the government, and quite frankly, it buys votes. It's the kind of system that takes away from an individual's ability to provide for themselves. It erodes pride and purpose, 2 things that are key to an individual's ability to feel whole and alive and to achieve the mental wellness that comes with that. When I raise my kids, I want them to grow with a sense of reliance, with a feeling of purpose and optimism. Too often today, this government is pushing a "we'll take care of you" approach. Trust us to give it back to you. Trust the system to be there when you need it. Trust us. This takes away from a person's motivation. And furthermore, that system is broken. The system is so broken and breaking down in front of us. What will be left to trust in after we've gathered their trust? But, Honourable Speaker, this amendment could be a beginning. Together, we can work to put more money into wallets, money that the government never took out to begin with. Novel concept, I know, but I believe we need to begin here. On September 30th, 2024, the Premier said, quote, $1,000 tax cut the year after that, the year after that, and the year after that, end quote. It was a cheap promise, but now the government can make good on it, and it can be a joint effort across political lines, and it can be permanent, not just 3 years. Honourable Speaker, British Columbians need more than 3 years of relief. We need a real and lasting plan for a stronger economy, lower taxes, and more hope and opportunity for young British Columbians. This bill promises relief. Perhaps we don't need to make poverty a thriving industry, fueled by high taxes and low incentives for the business community. Perhaps we can move back to towards a thriving middle class. As we all know, Honourable Speaker, a healthy and thriving middle class is essential and important to a healthy democracy. A healthy and widespread middle class provides a healthy foundation for the economy. Modest taxes coming from this class can also support a wide range of supports for a struggling and vulnerable population. Without a strong and healthy middle class, all of the systems that the vulnerable depend on become at risk. As the critic for social development, I am keenly aware of how at risk some of these programs are or could become. Like any household budget, one cannot expect to run deficits, build debts, use credit cards in an infinite manner, and to be able to sustain that behavior long term. At some points, payments become unmanageable and the whole house of cards will fall. This is my concern with the struggling middle class, and why I believe this amendment is so important. We have to support the middle class, as it's they who support every program that this government runs. On September 29th, 2024, the Premier said, "People need help now so they can get ahead. The leader of the official opposition would make ordinary people wait 18 months to receive any support." That's if you believe him at all. Our tax cut for the middle class supports people now who are struggling with the high cost of groceries, end quote. The Premier said people will need relief now, but what's changed since September that he feels he can simply cancel this plan? What is his plan to support those who need relief? This amendment seeks to answer that call, delivering immediate relief to families who are now just $200 away from falling behind on their bills. The people on this side of the room have the backs of all British Columbians, and that is why we will support this amendment. We want to see businesses thrive. We want a healthy middle-income society. We want healthy programs supporting our vulnerable, but we realize we can't do that without a strong and healthy middle class who pays a reasonable amount of tax and has a strong chance for opportunity and prosperity. We aren't against social programs. We understand how they must be funded and that money does not grow on trees, Honourable Speaker. I knew then, and I know now, that the member from Minnetonka Lakes would bring policies that would bring relief to everyday British Columbians, policies that would release the stranglehold of high regulation and overtaxation that it has on everyday British Columbians and small businesses. This amendment brings real, recurring relief to the people of British Columbia, which is what they need right now. I know the people of Kelowna would support this type of amendment. During my campaign, I heard from small businesses, small business owners, restaurant owners, that they will not survive another 4 years if this NDP government stays on the current trajectory of high taxes and high regulation. I have witnessed many businesses in Kelowna close down in the past couple of years, so I believe them. One of my colleagues on this side of the House tells me that restaurant owners in his riding used to run their restaurants with 12 staff, take home was millions, and a burger was $6 just a few years ago. Well, now that same burger is $12, so it's doubled. They can only afford to have 2 staff, not 12, and they take home about 65% of what they were taking home several years ago. This is not sustainable, Honourable Speaker, and this is why we will continue to see families in the food bank lineup leave the province and businesses leave the province. Unless and until this government begins to bring relief to the middle class, we are on a path to deficits, debt, and lack of opportunity. I do know that all members want good things for British Columbians, so I urge all of us to dig deep, consider what is working and what is not working, and to find a common way forward. I do believe that we can agree on many things and that we should drop the things that matter less. Ideologies and regulations and being right all matter very little when children are hungry and jobs are scarce, or the ones that are available simply don't pay the bills. Let me remind this House, it wasn't that long ago, it was just last year in fact, that the Premier himself promised British Columbians a $1,000 annual grocery rebate. He stood in front of cameras and said help was coming. Then, after the election was over, after the headlines faded, that promise was abandoned, but not before they gave themselves raises. Honourable Speaker, British Columbians are not asking for luxuries. They're not asking for handouts. They're asking to be able to afford milk, bread, diapers, gas to get to work. They're asking for a little bit of breathing room. They're asking for the supports to be able to provide for themselves, and this bill gives it to them. Honourable Speaker, this amendment holds the government to its word, too. If the Premier and his cabinet believed in that rebate enough to campaign on it, then they should believe in it enough to support this bill. I hope all members of this House will support this bill and provide the tax relief British Columbians so desperately need and deserve. This is an amendment that every member of this House should support. It brings real solutions to real problems. It's not broken promises anymore. I urge all members of this House to support this common sense measure and give British Columbians the tax relief that they deserve. We in this House have a responsibility to listen to our constituents, not just during elections, but in moments like this when action is needed, when leadership is required, when talk is not enough. So I ask all members of this House, set aside the politics. Think of the people in your riding who are watching their grocery bills climb. Think of the young families barely keeping up with mortgage payments and daycare costs. Think of the seniors counting their change in the checkout line. Just like my caucus colleagues, I support this amendment, and I hope the other side will support it as well. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.